Shannon Gisbergen will not be returning to Supercars in 2024 and is expected to go full-time NASCAR racing in 2024, and the Brickyard runner is likely returning in 2024. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We got some NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to go ahead and start and talk about United Rentals. As it was announced this morning that United Rentals will sponsor Austin Hill's number 62 car at Daytona next weekend and the Charlotte Roval. Austin Hill has 3 more starts planned for 2023 in the NASCAR Cup Series with Beard Motorsports. Really cool to see United Rentals, who's been a loyal sponsor of Austin Hill since the 2019 season when he started driving for Tory Racing. They've been loyal to him for the last couple of years. Really awesome and cool to see if they're going to continue their partnership and continue working with Austin Hill in the Cup Series. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about college sports. As it was reported by Adam Stern yesterday that NASCAR is deepening its marketing spend in college sports, renewing its deal with the University of Alabama, and also they have a deal with the University of South Carolina as well. They've had Livy done basically at the national event with Chase Elliott promoting the event, and I think it's really cool to see that college sports are kind of getting more involved in NASCAR. I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool. And I love the fact there's a little more college sports aspiration to try to get to that younger demographic and to that younger audience as well. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about NASCAR Classics. Now, this is something that's been being worked on for a very long time. But last night, the NASCAR Classics website officially went up on NASCAR.com. You're able to watch a lot of races. Now, not every single race is on there. The 2001 Daytona 500 is not on there, and there's some races from 2010 that are not on there as well. But the majority of the races in the last 10 to 15 years are on the website. And even some old classic races like the 1979 Daytona 500 is on there. So I think that's really cool. They've finally done that. That's something they've been working on for a very long time. They've been teasing, and now you have a website. You don't have to just go out to YouTube now to watch. You can now go and watch the races on that website. So really awesome, really cool. And I think they're going to keep doing some things. There's been some issues with the website. Again, our website's been crashing, but it's something I think they're going to get it fixed over time and continue to work on as time progresses. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Chase Carden. As it was announced, I believe on Monday evening that Chase Carden will drive a 74 for CHK Racing this weekend at Watkins Glen. Chase Carden has made quite a few starts in ARCA. He's driven a 03 car for Club Racing, for Alex Club's team. And Chase Carden does have a little bit of talent. Now, this is a very interesting move because I believe that there are cars that will be going home. And CHK Racing's had some really good opportunities with drivers like Dawson Cran and Cade Honeycutt to make races this year. This, of course, will be his debut for Chase Carden. So hopefully he can do a really good job and can make this show this weekend at Watkins Glen. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Jack Harvey and Connor Daly. As it was officially announced yesterday from RLL Racing that Jack Harvey has officially parted ways with RLL Racing. Jack Harvey's been driving for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing for the last couple of seasons, but the results have really not been there. And Jack Harvey this past weekend had his best performance finishing 14th, which is the first finish inside the top 15 this entire year. Meanwhile, you have Christian Lundgaard who's already won a race this year, that coming in Toronto, and you also have Graham Rahal, who basically had a chance to win at the Indy Road Course as well. And they've been showing a lot more improvement outside of Jack Harvey. So who's going to be driving a 30 car? Well, 30 car. Well, or 45 car, I should say. Well, Connor Daly is going to be driving the 30 car for the next weekend's race at Worldwide Technology Raceway. The plan after that is unclear, but I imagine Connor Daly has a really good chance and possibility that he may drive the final 2 races, well, since he's been the super sub for the team. I think it's a good pickup for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan. It's disappointing that Jack Harvey's not going to be with the team anymore, but unfortunately his performance had just not been there, and sadly, I think that's a big reason why he's been let go. Definitely some really disappointing news nonetheless. He's not going to be there anymore, but again, you got to perform the best you can, and it is disappointing, but overall, not a major shocking surprise that Jack Harvey will not be back with Ray Hall Letterman and Lanigan Racing in the future. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Front Row Motorsports. Now, Michael Liddell was on actions detrimental with Denny Hamlin and Jarrett. And Michael McDowell says that Front Row doesn't still have a Hawkeye system, which is the inspection system. They're hoping to get one with McDowell's success and Front Row success. Obviously, Front Row Motorsports basically is a satellite team that works with RFK, and they kind of use their system currently. But how well they have been performing this year, I think that's something that probably could change in the near future. You look at Front Row Motorsports this year, they're having a career year. They've had like 10 or 11 top 10s already combined as an organization. Yes, Michael McDowell last year did get 12 top 10s, but that was through the whole entire season. Michael McDowell's had 7 or 8 top 10s on his own this year, and of course, he just picked up his first victory of 2023. And I think that this team is only going to continue to get better. They've obviously exercised their contracts with Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen for next year. McDowell will stay in the 34, and Gillen will stay in the 38 next year. Hopefully, with this Hawkeye system that they're currently working on at the moment, they can get that in the future, and maybe in 2024, they can continue to even perform way better. But Front Row, I think in the next years, could be championship contending team. They've been getting better and better and better, and now they've got a chance to win more races, and I think that's really exciting and really awesome stuff. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Alex Bowman. As it was announced on Monday that Alex Bowman will drive a 17 for Hendrick Motorsports in the Xfinity Series this weekend at Watkins Glen. I believe this will be Alex Bowman's first start in the Xfinity Series in the 2023 season, his first race outside the Cup Series since he has come back from his injury. Alex Bowman has been performing a lot better recently. He had a really sharp run at the Indy Road Course, and he's hoping with running this Xfinity Series race at Watkins Glen, he's hoping that he can continue to get even better. Alex Bowman, I think, is a solid decision for him. I'm a little surprised that he got like Kyle Larson or William Byron's not behind the wheel, but I think Hendrick Motorsports is giving him a little more experience to try to help him make the NASCAR playoffs. Because Alex Bowman right now is like 80 or 85 points below the cutoff line. He's pretty much in a must-win situation at this point. And I think Alex Bowman does have a really good chance and possibility to win this weekend. Hendrick Motorsports cars have been really, really strong, really fast in Xfinity. Yes, they haven't won a race in the Xfinity Series yet. Kyle Larson did come very close to winning in the 17 car at Sonoma, but unfortunately he did end up having issues where he basically had the tire barrier. He should have won that race, let's be honest. But I think Alex Bowman does have a very solid and a good shot to win. He's going to have some tough competition, some good road course racers from the Cup Series like Kyle Busch and Ty Gibbs running, but I think Alex Bowman does have a great chance and possibility to potentially win at Watkins Glen. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Kyle Busch. It was officially confirmed, I believe yesterday, that Kyle Busch will drive the 10 for Kaulig Racing this weekend at Watkins Glen. This has been expected, but the reason that this is kind of big news is because originally on the entry list, AJ Allmendinger had been listed to the 10 car. But AJ Allmendinger has ran his limit of races because Cup Series drivers who have more than 3 years of Cup Series experience, they cannot run more than 5 races in the Cup Series. And Kyle Busch has only run 2 or 3 Cup races so far, Xfinity races I should say, this season. So he still has a couple races that he can run, but this is likely going to be Kyle Busch's final race in 2023 in the Xfinity Series. Now, I think Kyle Busch has a really good chance and a really strong possibility to win. The 10 car is going to have some tough competition. You've obviously got Alex Bowman and Ty Gibbs who are going to be running that race, but I do think Kyle Busch has a great chance and possibility to get it done. He's going to be a contender. He's looking for his first Xfinity Series victory since 2021, and I think he'd like to win more races. He's still the winningest driver in Xfinity Series history and the winningest driver in Truck Series history. Of course, he did get 2 truck wins this year in 2023, and he looks to win more Xfinity Series races this week, and he's having a great year. And I think he's got a great chance and possibility to win. He's only won 1 race here, Watkins Glen, the Xfinity Series. I think that came back in 2015. But I think Kyle Busch, or 2014 or 2016, I should say, or 2017. Nonetheless, I think Kyle Busch has a really great chance and a very strong possibility to pick up the victory at Watkins Glen in the Xfinity Series. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about the Indy Road Course TV ratings. So Adam Stern always puts out the TV ratings usually every single week, and according to him, NBC got a 1.67 rating and 2.838 million viewers for Sunday's race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That is down from a 2.05 rating and 3.373 million viewers in 2022. Meaning that nearly 500,000 people did not tune in from last year's race, and we had a pretty big drop, I think 13 to 14% drop in the TV rating side of things. Now, there are a couple of big factors to note. Number one, it is a road course, and road course races generally don't have as many people tune in as the oval. The other big reason why the ratings are down, though, in my opinion, is because of the preseason games. Some areas have blackouts. Kansas City was one of those areas. I think Los Angeles got affected by it, and they have pretty big markets and a huge fan base. So, of course, less people are going to be tuning in when you have these kind of blackouts that are going on. Again, having still nearly 3 million people watching is not terrible, all things considered, but I think this is going to play a part in what story we're going to talk about, which is the Oval returning. I think a lot of people are going to use this as an excuse for the Oval returning. Again, there are a couple outside factors. It is disappointing the ratings are down, but there are reasons why those ratings are down in the first place. So, yeah, it definitely is disappointing for sure. Again, we've had a lot of races this year in the Cup Series that have been up in TV ratings, especially look at Nashville. That race is up in the TV ratings. Atlanta was a little bit down. We've had other races like Chicago Street Course, which is an absolute banger for the TV ratings, and I think this race could have been banging and more. There were a lot of international drivers watching. I guarantee you, those international audiences like in Japan, in Australia, New Zealand, they were probably up in the TV ratings in their aspect, but I think the reason why it was down here in the U.S. is because of the preseason football games that were kind of causing a blackout there. So while it's disappointing, it's not majorly shocking and not majorly surprising at this point. So I'm not surprised or shocked by it. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Max Pappas. Now, Max Pappas went on social media on Sunday evening, and he says that he is tired of watching others race, and he wants to race in NASCAR once again in 2024. Now, Max Pappas, for those who don't know, actually used to race in NASCAR back in the day from like 2009, or actually raced selectively in 2007 and 2008. Ran full-time with the Germain Racing Organization, the 13 team, and also did drive the number 9 truck in 2009, trying to get experience there. Didn't end up really winning a race, but he was a contender, at least in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, where he drove the 33 car for Kevin Harvick Incorporated in 2010 and 2011, but has not raced in NASCAR, to my knowledge, since 2013, or did try to make some starts, I think, last year, 2021, but was not able to get through. But Max Pappas is someone who had a lot of success also in kart and also some success in IMSA as well. And honestly, I think it'd be really cool and amazing to see Max Pappas come back and race in NASCAR. What team could he drive for? Well, if Farmer decided to ever run a third car part-time, maybe that could be a possibility. It probably would have to be maybe a Chevy. Maybe if Trackhouse does run the Project 91 car again next year, that could be a potential possibility as well. But it would be really cool to see Max Pappas come back and return to the sport. I think he'd do a solid job. I think he'd be pretty successful. And honestly, I kind of hope it does end up happening where Max Pappas gets that opportunity, gets that chance, and gets that shot to run. So we'll see what happens. But it's, again, I think it's just so cool to see how so many international drivers who are interested, who haven't even been in the sport, because Max Pappas is a former driver. You had guys like Boris Said come back. You've had Travis Strada make starts. Kamui Kobayashi. Brody Kosecki, we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Fernando Alonso, I think, at this point, has been interested in running in NASCAR. You've had others like Lewis Hamilton is interested. You've had others come in, like Shane Van Gisbergen, who is likely going to be going full-time NASCAR racing in 2024. I think it's exciting. I think it's awesome, and it's really cool to see a lot of drivers are interested, and I love the fact that Max Pappas may be in the not-so-distant future running in NASCAR once again in 2024. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Brody Kosecki. Now, Brody Kosecki made his official NASCAR Cup Series debut this past weekend at the Indy Road Course. And unfortunately, his performance was not very great, but it wasn't terrible either. He ended up finishing 22nd, which was the best outside of Shane Van Gisbergen. And he was asked by Dustin Long after the race, do you want to race in NASCAR once again? And Brody Kosecki says that he absolutely wants to race NASCAR once again. Now, interesting thing to know, Brody Kosecki drives for Rabus Racing, which they have a connection with Richard Childress Racing. And look, I know his performance wasn't great, but he was actually really, really fast in practice and qualifying as well. And you do have to remember one thing, that he had basically crashed in qualifying, but he had no simulator experience for getting behind the wheel. So for someone to finish 22nd who had no sim experience, I think it's actually very, very impressive. And he was actually getting faster as the race progressed, and at times was in the top 20. I think if he gets another start and another chance and opportunity, I do believe that Brody Kosecki will be very, very competitive and very, very quick. I think he'll get faster, and obviously that's not as good of a team as the 91 team was. And again, the 33 team, they've not really run much. Justin Alexander is, I think, heading up that team, which I think he should probably still be working with Austin Dillon. But I think that Brody Kosecki could do a better job if he got another shot and another opportunity to race. And I think that Rich Childress Racing and RCR would definitely be 100% willing to give another chance and another opportunity. So do I think he's going to run again? Yes. Do I think it'll be in 2023? No. Could he run ovals? Definitely, for sure. But I think 2024 would be the next time we see him. He probably runs some road course races, and maybe, maybe he runs some ovals. But But again, I think he's committed to supercars long term. Obviously, he's competing for the championship there, and I think he's got a really good chance to win the championship in 2023. So I think he'll be committed there, but I think it'll be hopefully in the future we get to see Brody Kosecki have a chance and an opportunity to race in NASCAR once again, and hopefully we'll get to see that happen. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Kamui Kobayashi. Now, very similar to Brody Kosecki, Kamui Kobayashi also made his NASCAR Cup Series debut, driving the number 67 car for 23XI Racing. And his race did not go very well, where he finished 33rd. But to be fair to Kamui Kobayashi, he had shown some pretty good signs of pace in practice and also in qualifying as well. Unfortunately, he got dumped twice. First by Andy Lally in the 15 for Rick Ware Racing, or 51, I should say, for Rick Ware Racing. And then obviously later he got turned by Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who just dive-bombed the corner for no reason whatsoever. And he just took Kamui Kobayashi out for no reason. Now, Kamui says that he wants to race in NASCAR once again. And honestly, I really hope, very similar to Brody Kosecki, I hope Kamui Kobayashi gets another shot and another opportunity. Because from what I understand, and I believe that Denny Hamlin and even Dale Jr. has said this, that he was really impressive in the test sessions at Virginia International Raceway and had done a pretty good job there. And I do believe that Kamui Kobayashi, the more experience he gets, the better he becomes. He's someone that has a lot of learning to do, at least in the NASCAR side of things, but he's a legend of other forms of racing. He, of course, raced in Formula One, and he's also winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours, and has also won the Rolex 24 not once, but twice. And I think Kamui Kobayashi could do a very good job if he got another chance and another opportunity. Obviously, he's still focused on racing the World Endurance Championship and being a team principal over there at Toyota right now. But still, I want to see Kamui Kobayashi come back. I think he'd be very good. I think he'd be very, very competitive, and I think he'd actually be a lot better. Now, do I think he'll race again in 2023? I think there's actually a bit of a chance it could happen because 6-7 car I could see running maybe the Charlotte Roval, but that's going to be a really tall order. He might still, of course, be focusing on the World Endurance Championship. That might hurt a shot and opportunity to do that, but still, I really hope there's a chance he gets an opportunity, a shot, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see him come back to NASCAR 2023 or in 2024. And now we're going to hedge on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about Zane Smith. Now, Jerry Freese, who basically a GM and president of Ferrari Motorsports, went on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio to talk to Larry McReynolds and Daniel Trotta. And Jerry Freese says that Zane Smith's future with Front Row is unknown at this point. They've offered him a truck deal, but nothing has been done yet in regards to that, and also Select Cup Series starts with 2024. Now, why is Zane Smith's future uncertain at Ferrari Motorsports? Well, a big reason why his future is currently uncertain at Ferrari Motorsports is because of the fact that it was announced last week on Wednesday, a week ago today, that Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen are going to return to their respective rides for 2024, which means that Zane Smith is the odd man out. I believe that Bob Jenkins and Jerry Freese had said they were actually trying to get a third full-time car for 2024, but they, number one, did not have the finances, didn't have a charter to go with it, and the second big reason is they didn't want to have to deal with another rookie, which, I'll be honest, I think was not the best decision in the world to not have Zane Smith full time. But I understand going with the status quo as well, because you look at how Front Row's done this year with Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen, and honestly, I don't blame them for keeping it around because both drivers have done a really, really good job with Front Row this season. But it was a really, really tough decision for Front Row. So now the big question revolves around Zane Smith. Zane Smith, I could see going back to trucks and drive for Ferrari next year in 2024. But Zane Smith has made it public that he doesn't want to be in the truck series anymore. He made it public that he wants to be full-time cup racing in 2024. And I don't blame the guy. He's already won a truck championship with Front Row for 2022, and he does have a chance to win it once again in the 2023 season. But I think he wants to go full-time cup racing next year. He's got a lot of talent. And remember, he nearly did go full-time cup racing in 2022 when he was basically was going to drive the one car for Chip Ganassi Racing, but then that changed when Trackhouse bought up Chip Ganassi Racing. So he did actually almost go full-time cup racing. And he has made select cup starts in 2023. And he had a top 10 with Front Row Motorsports. Remember, they kicked Todd Gillen out partly because of that. But now the big question revolves around, does he stay? I don't know at this point if that is going to end up happening. So now the other big question that really comes into play is if he doesn't return to Front Row's truck team, where could he go? Well, I think there's a couple of potential options and possibilities. The first option that really could end up happening is he could drive the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. Eric Almirol's future is not set past 2023 at the moment, and I think there's a good chance he retires at the end of 2023. Now, there's other drivers who could get opportunity. Riley Herbst, Cole Custer, Haley Deegan could be candidates, but Zane Smith would be the lead candidate in my choice to replace Eric Almirola next season in 2024. Another option for Zane Smith that could come into play is Rick Ware Racing. Interesting thing to note, I looked at the tweet, and Rick Ware was one of the teams that liked the tweet. So there is a second Rick Ware card that is available. Justin Haley, of course, is going to be driving full-time for the team. But what if RFK was looking to bring him into the team? Think about that. Remember, he made his Cup Series debut substituting for Chris Buescher at Gateway last year. And of course, RFK does have a work with Rick Ware Racing. So that's another team to look at. And I think another possibility is the Wood Brothers, but I think that more than likely you do have that driver, Harrison Burton, who's driving for the team at the moment. He's likely going to return to the Wood Brothers in 2024. So my prediction right now is I think Zane Smith is going Cup Racing full-time in 2024, and I think it actually is going to be with Stewart-Haas Racing. I think Eric Almirola is going to announce retirement at the end of the season, and I think Zane Smith takes a 10 car. I think he deserves a shot and opportunity because McDowell's no longer available because he's going to be returning to the team. I expect that you're going to see Zane Smith in a 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024. And now we're going to jump on to the first of two major stories in today's episode as we are talking about the Brickyard 400. Now, we've covered the Brickyard 400 quite a bit on this channel over the last couple days. We talked about yesterday or Monday on the channel that basically a decision regarding the Brickyard 400 is expected in the next couple months. Well, on Monday, it was basically kind of reported the Brickyard 400 is likely going to be coming back in 2024. And there was a poster that basically came out with renewal tickets. And this shows a car going the right direction, going down the long straightaway and saying, come back around. Obviously, in 2024 will be the 30-year anniversary of the Brickyard 400. So a lot of people are suggesting that is a big reason why it is going to come back. Now, sometimes renewal tickets don't say everything. But another reason why, because the decision is likely coming, and it's no secret that behind the scenes, there are big decisions being made in regards to the future of the NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader. And rumors have circulated that the IndyCar race that currently was at IMS for the NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader is likely going to be headed to the Milwaukee Mile in 2024. And many in the industry, like I said, do believe that they're going to be going back to the Brickyard in 2024. Another big reason why is because of an oval test that took place on Monday and Tuesday. We had Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, and Chase Briscoe who were doing that test, and it was on the oval. And you wouldn't be doing usually an oval test at a racetrack and a tire test with different changes of the car if you weren't planning to go back to a racetrack. And look, here's my honest opinion. Did I think this past weekend's IMS road course race, the NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader, do I think it was actually successful? Yes, absolutely. I think the Cup Series race, the IMS road course, actually was relatively really good. You had a really good battle between Michael McDowell, Chase Elliott, and Daniel Suarez, which I thought was really intriguing and very, very exciting. But if you want my honest opinion, yes, it was a very, very solid race, but I still believe that the Brickyard 400 does need to come back. A couple reasons. One, tradition's sake. I think, yes, for the last years of when it was on the Brickyard before they decided to maybe bring it back next year, basically the racing was not very, very good. But there's a couple reasons why I want to bring it back. Number one, tradition. Tradition's sake. There's only 3 crown jewels at the moment, and a lot of people feel like there should be a 4th crown jewel. And the Brickyard 400 would be that crown jewel that we would bring back. The second big reason why the Brickyard 400, in my opinion, should come back is because the next-gen car has raced extremely well on bigger ovals. And a lot of people compare the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to Pocono International Speedway. And we've seen how good the racing has been at Pocono with the next-gen car, or better. I think while it won't be exactly great, again, do I think it's going to be exceptionally well? No, absolutely not. But I think the racing could actually be pretty respectable and be pretty good. But you can't just run the race. You would have to maybe do some format changes to make the race a little bit better. And look, and then the ratings is another big reason. We already talked about this with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course TV ratings. The ratings for that race were not very, very good, and nearly 500,000 people less tuned in. Now, granted, we did have preseason football that's kind of blacking out people's opportunity and shot to run. But when it comes to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard 400, more people I think are going to tune into that. And I think it will be one of the largest rating races of the year. Will it be as big as Daytona 500? No, absolutely not. But you're going to have also potential possibility of more people showing up. And I think the first year back, you will have people who are going to show up, who are going to want to watch the race. I wouldn't be surprised if you see the largest crowd for a Brickyard weekend since like 2011 or 2012 when he had like 100,000 people show up. And who knows, maybe I'll be at that race next year in 2024. But again, I want to see it come back for 2024. Another reason is I think another road course deserves a chance and opportunity. And there's a lot of rumors that Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is coming back in 2024. So that's another huge reason why I think it does need to come back in the 2024 season. So, like I said, I think it's going to happen in 2024. I think it's coming back. Now, when does the schedule come out for 2024? My personal opinion, I think it's going to come out either at the end of this month or it is going to come out next month in September, which that is going to be a huge thing to watch because there's some huge potential changes coming. There's rumors that the Roval might be gone, and there's other rumors about other tracks. Talk maybe Rocky and might come back on the schedule for 2024. There's been talk that Sonoma might move to earlier in the season with Auto Club not being on the schedule. Montreal replacing that. And then obviously, like I said, moving Sonoma to earlier in the year. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in regards to what the schedule decisions are made. But it looks like at this point that the Brickyard Hornet has a really strong chance and a very strong possibility of coming back in the 2024 season. And now we're going to head on to the final major story of today's episode as we are talking about Shane Van Gisbergen. Now, we have done a lot of videos discussing about Shane Van Gisbergen. We've had a couple updates in regards to SVG. First, it was reported on Monday by Adam Stern that we know that he's expected to be going full-time NASCAR racing in 2024. But first, Adam Stern reported that Justin Marks says that the charter system thing is a funny business right now. I'm running a race business here. I don't have $1 billion company. And he says that I don't know if you need a charter to go basically full-time racing. Remember last night, it was reported by Adam Stern once again that they have to be a highly calculated and intelligent about how we build a program for him. But there's been another major update, and one of the reasons why a lot of people have been wondering is a lot of rumors are that he would be leaving Supercars at the end of 2023 and coming over to the U.S. in 2024. Well, it was officially confirmed in Australian time in the morning, but late last night, that he will officially not be returning to Supercars in 2024, and Will Brown is going to be his replacement for 2024. Pretty much all but confirming at this point that Shane Van Gisbergen will be coming full-time to NASCAR in the 2024 season. Obviously, he's been rumbling for a very, very long time. He just made his oval debut this past week at IRP and had a very, very successful debut in Indianapolis Raceway Park, where he did finish in 19th position. He also made his second NASCAR Cup Series start this past weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course and had a very, very strong run where he finished in 10th, becoming only the first driver since Terry Labonte in 1978 to have your first two Cup Series starts finishing in the top 10, which is really impressive considering the caliber of competition that came internationally. The next highest finishing driver at the road course would finish in 22nd position, that being Brody Kostecki. So I think Shane Van Gisbergen has done a very good job in the select starts, and I don't think he is a fluke. Now, what is the expectations for SVG going to 2024? Well, I do not believe he'll be full-time in the Cup Series in 2024. Let me explain. Charters are a major reason, and while I think Trackhouse could try to find a way to get a charter for him to go full-time and get one maybe from like Worker Racing, I don't see that happening at this point. So my expectation is that he is going to run part-time with 3 different organizations. For the Cup Series, I think it's no-brainer he'll be driving the 91 for Trackhouse Racing, which is the Project 91 car. Or if they decide to change it, they can run the 97 car. And I think he'll run around 10 to 12 races there. Usually supercars, they run 10 to 12 races, I think, in their seasons respectively. So I think he'll run 10 to 12 races in the Cup Series. I think a majority of them being road courses, but I think he'll run maybe some ovals as well. But I think a lot of his oval experience is going to come in the Xfinity Series or Truck Series. Let's move down to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think there's one team in particular that I think he'll drive for, and that is Kaulig Racing. Kaulig Racing, they have a really good alliance with Trackhouse Racing in the Cup Series, and I think they get their program, their pit crew guys, from Trackhouse Racing as well. And also, they've had some of their Kaulig guys, some of the guys who've driven Kaulig have been Trackhouse drivers. Look at some of the names. Ross Chastain's made a couple starts, I think, for Kaulig Racing, and also, of course, we have a lot for Kaulig Racing as well in the past. And then Daniel Suarez also made a one-off start with Kaulig Racing in the 10 car at Pocono. I think Shane Van Gisbergen is going to drive the 10 car for Kaulig Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. It makes a lot of sense. And now we get to the Truck Series. What team will Shane Van Gisbergen drive for in the Truck Series? Look no further than Niece Motorsports. Nice Motorsports, they have a massive connection with Trackhouse Racing with the Worldwide Express partnership. And also, they've had former Trackhouse drivers like Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, and even Justin Marks has driven for the team. And Shane Van Gisbergen did make his debut with Nice Motorsports in the number 41 organization. Now, I could also see him driving the number 42 truck as well. There's a lot of rumors that Carson Osbar will be moving away from the Truck Series and potentially moving all the way up to the Cup Series in 2024. Whether that is with Kaulig Racing or with Fire Motorsports, we don't know at this point. But I think SVG is going to be driving part-time in trucks. It might even run full-time in trucks next year with Nice Motorsports and get a lot of development, because the deal currently at the moment is expected to be a development deal. Again, trust me, would I like to see Shane Van Gisbergen full-time in the Cup Series with Trackhouse Racing? Absolutely. But I do not believe it is going to happen because of the charter business. The charter business is a really, really big thing, and teams are not selling charters, because it's no secret right now that charters right now are very expensive. We have reports of $30 million, and even a couple reports have suggested that it's getting into that $40 million range. And the reason they're expensive is because of the upcoming TV deal. There's a lot of money expected to come into play. Teams want more money in the TV deal, and that is a massive reason why, because the TV revenue contract has not been signed yet for 2024 at this particular point. So I don't think it'll be full-time in Cup, but I think this is also generally a good decision. Now, I think 2025, come then, I think he will be full-time in the Cup Series. I think this is an excuse to get him some experience. I think he's going to run a lot of Xfinity, run a lot of trucks, and some Cup. But I think he's going to be racing next year NASCAR in 2024, and it's really, really exciting. I think Shane's actually a really good race car driver. He's one of the best in the world. I know people say he's overrated, call him Marcus Ambrose, which is disrespectful because, one, Marcus Ambrose never had a really good opportunity and shot to really show what he's capable of. But also, Shane Van Gisbergen is an absolute wheelman and will do an excellent and a very, very good job in 2024. So wherever he goes, I'm excited about it. Again, I'm looking forward to this. I want to see Shane race in NASCAR next year. He impressed me. That win at Chicago was super impressive. I've been a fan of his for a very, very long time, and to see he's going to be racing NASCAR 2024, I cannot wait. I think he's going to have a really good chance and opportunity to be competitive. He's also enjoying it. He seems to be having a lot of fun. It's another thing to think about. You hear him in his interviews. He's having fun. And he hasn't really had fun with supercars. He's been frustrated with this. So for him to be really excited and having fun with NASCAR and having less fun with supercars, I think is really interesting. But I think he's going to have a lot of fun racing in NASCAR next year. I think he's going to get used to it and enjoy his time in NASCAR. So it sounds like it's very likely going to be happening. And I think a decision, it's only a matter of time before this is officially announced, because we do know a deal is being finalized as we speak. But I think a decision will be coming imminently and pretty soon, especially with now the Supercars news confirming it this morning. I think we're going to be knowing relatively soon that Shane Van Gisbergen will be full-time in NASCAR. So that is going to be today's NASCAR news and motorsports news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on so if I win a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. List goes below that, and comment your thoughts below on today's video. How well do you think SVG is going to do in NASCAR 2024? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about all the news we discussed today on the channel, including the potential of the Brickyard 400 returning in 2024? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we're going to have the NASCAR picks video for the Cup Series race at Watkins Glen. There may be a second video up on the channel today, though. If there's more NASCAR news that breaks, there might be a second video up later today. Then on Thursday, I also have the SRX race review from Wheatland for Lucas Oil. And then Friday, we're going to have a silly season update more than likely on the channel, so make sure to tune into that. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.